He was told to quit so many times that the word began to echo in his mind even when no one was speaking. It followed him through crowded streets and silent nights, slipped into his thoughts while he brushed his teeth while he stared at the ceiling at 2 a.m., while he watched other people succeed at the very thing he kept failing at. Maybe they're right, he would whisper to himself. Maybe this isn't for me. But something deep inside him refused to die, no matter how many times the world tried to bury it. His name was Ayan, and he grew up in a narrow house at the edge of a restless city. The walls were thin, the paint chipped, and the electricity unreliable. But dreams filled the space more than furniture did. From the time he was a child, Ayan loved creating things. He would take broken radios apart just to understand how sound traveled. He would sketch designs in old notebooks his father brought home from work. While other kids played cricket in the alley, he would sit on the rooftop, imagining a future that felt bigger than the skyline in front of him. But imagination doesn't always impress the world. When Ayan told his relatives he wanted to build technology that could change lives, they laughed gently at first and more openly as he grew older. Be realistic, they said, get a stable job, don't chase fantasies. His teachers admired his curiosity but warned him about practicality. Talent is not enough, one of them told him. Very few make it. Most people fail. He carried those words with him into university. The campus was larger than anything he had known, buzzing with confidence and competition. For the first time, he was surrounded by people who were smarter, faster, and seemingly more prepared. His first semester hit him like a storm. He failed 2 major exams. He stared at the red marks on his paper until they blurred. The voice returned. Quit. You don't belong here. He tried harder the next semester, sleeping less, studying more, drinking endless cups of cheap coffee. But effort didn't immediately turn into results. He passed his courses, but not with distinction. When internship season arrived, he applied to dozens of companies and received rejection after rejection. Some didn't reply at all. Others sent automated emails thanking him for his interest and wishing him luck in his future endeavors. The rejections piled up in his inbox like a silent reminder of his inadequacy. One evening, after yet another rejection, he walked home instead of taking the bus. The city lights flickered above him, and he felt small beneath them. He remembered the first time he told his family about his dream. He remembered the spark in his own voice. It felt distant now. By the time he reached his house, exhaustion had settled into his bones. His father was sitting at the table, bills spread out in front of him. You're trying, his father said carefully, but maybe it's time to consider something safer. We can't afford for you to keep chasing something uncertain. The word wasn't spoken, but it hung in the air. Quit. That night, Ayan lay awake staring at the ceiling fan as it rotated slowly. He imagined 2 futures. In one, he gave up. He found a job he didn't love but tolerated. He earned enough to survive. He told himself that dreams were for younger versions of him. In the other future, he continued. He faced more rejection, more doubt, more nights like this one, but maybe, just maybe, he would build something meaningful. The second future terrified him. It demanded resilience he wasn't sure he had. The next morning, he woke up with swollen eyes and a decision that surprised even him. He wouldn't quit. Not yet. Not because he was certain of success, but because quitting would guarantee failure. Continuing at least left a door open. He started small. Instead of trying to impress companies, he began building projects for himself. He coded late into the night, creating simple apps that solved minor problems in his community. One app helped local shopkeepers track inventory. Another connected students to shared study resources. They weren't revolutionary, but they were real. He wasn't waiting for permission anymore. When he showed his first app to a local shop owner, the man nodded appreciatively but said, "It's good, but I don't need it." The old voice stirred. See? It's pointless. But this time, Ayan didn't collapse. He asked questions instead. What would make it useful for you? The shop owner listed features Ayan hadn't considered. So he went home and improved the app. Failure stopped feeling like a verdict and started feeling like feedback. Months passed. His projects improved. His confidence didn't skyrocket overnight, but it grew quietly, like a seed pushing through soil. He entered a startup competition at his university with an idea to create an affordable educational platform for underprivileged students. During the presentation, his voice shook. Halfway through, his slides malfunctioned. Laughter rippled through the room. He stumbled through the rest of his pitch and left the stage certain he'd embarrassed himself. He didn't win. That evening, as he packed up his laptop, one of the judges approached him. "Your presentation was rough," she said bluntly, "but your idea has potential. Work on your communication, refine your model, don't disappear." It wasn't praise, but it wasn't dismissal either. It was something in between. An opening. He could have focused on the laughter. Instead, he focused on the potential. He practiced speaking in front of a mirror. He recorded himself and cringed at his own awkwardness, then tried again. He studied successful entrepreneurs online, not to copy them, but to understand how they structure their thoughts. Slowly, his fear of public speaking loosened its grip. By the time he graduated, he still didn't have a prestigious job offer. Some classmates were already posting photos of their corporate offices and relocation announcements. The comparison stung, but Ayan had something different, a prototype that was evolving into a real platform and a small but growing group of users who found value in it. His extended family questioned his choices during gatherings. Still working on that little project, an uncle would ask, "When will you settle down?" Each question felt like a subtle push toward quitting. Each time, he forced a polite smile and answered calmly. Inside, though, the battle raged. There were days when the platform crashed. Days when users complained. Days when he doubted his entire direction. Once, a potential investor told him bluntly, "You don't have what it takes to scale this. You're too inexperienced. Maybe partner with someone more capable or consider stepping aside." The suggestion wasn't cruel, but it cut deeply. It echoed every fear he had ever carried. That night, he almost deleted the entire project. He sat in front of his screen, cursor hovering over the folder that held years of effort. His heart pounded. If he pressed delete, the struggle would end. No more sleepless nights, no more ridicule, no more uncertainty. He imagined waking up the next morning free from the weight of ambition. But then he thought about the students who had messaged him saying the platform helped them access lessons they couldn't otherwise afford. He thought about the younger version of himself on that rooftop, dreaming under a sky full of possibilities. He closed his laptop instead of deleting the files. The turning point didn't arrive with fireworks. It arrived with persistence. A local nonprofit organization discovered his platform and offered a partnership to pilot it in several community centers. It wasn't a massive deal, but it was validation. For the first time, someone outside his immediate circle believed in his vision enough to invest time and resources. The pilot program wasn't perfect. There were technical glitches and logistical hurdles, but the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Students improved their grades. Teachers appreciated the accessible materials. Word began to spread. Opportunities that once felt unreachable started knocking quietly. A small grant. A feature in a local newspaper. An invitation to speak at a youth conference. Each success was modest, but together they formed momentum. With momentum came new challenges. Scaling required hiring a team. Managing people tested him in ways coding never had. He made mistakes. He trusted the wrong partners. He mismanaged funds once and had to scramble to fix the consequences. Each misstep could have been a reason to quit. Critics reemerged. "See? We told you it was unstable." But something had shifted within him. He no longer saw obstacles as proof he was unfit. He saw them as part of the journey. The word quit lost some of its power. It was still there, whispering occasionally, but it no longer commanded him. Years later, the platform grew beyond what he had imagined on that rooftop. It expanded to multiple cities. Thousands of students logged in daily. Investors who once ignored his emails now requested meetings. Journalists asked about his overnight success, a phrase that made him smile quietly because he knew about the years of invisible struggle behind it. At a major conference, he stood on stage in front of a packed audience. The lights were bright, but his voice was steady. He told them about the rejections, the laughter, the nights he almost gave up. He spoke about the power of refusing to quit. Not out of arrogance, but out of commitment to a purpose bigger than ego. After his speech, a young man approached him with trembling hands. "I'm about to give up on my dream," the young man confessed. "Everyone says it's unrealistic." Ayan saw himself in those eyes. He didn't offer empty promises. He didn't say it would be easy. He simply said, make sure you're not quitting just because it's hard. If it still matters to you, give it one more try, then another. Unstoppable didn't mean invincible, it meant resilient. It meant falling and standing up so many times that standing up became instinct. It meant hearing no and translating it into not yet. It meant understanding that the world's doubt often reflects its own fear, not your potential. The same relatives who once urged him to be realistic now introduced him proudly at gatherings. His father, who had worried about stability, watched interviews with quiet pride in his eyes. But Ayan knew that true victory wasn't public recognition. It was the internal shift from self-doubt to self-trust. He was told to quit by teachers who feared for his practicality, by relatives who valued security, by investors who measured him against metrics, by circumstances that seemed stacked against him. But the loudest voice had been his own, and the day he stopped obeying that voice was the day he began to become unstoppable. Even after success, challenges continued, markets shifted, competitors emerged, economic downturns threatened funding. But the foundation he had built wasn't just a company, it was resilience. Each new obstacle was met not with panic, but with strategy. He adapted, evolved, and kept moving. Looking back, he realized that quitting would have been easier in the short term, but far more painful in the long term. Regret, he learned, weighs more than effort. The discomfort of growth is temporary. The discomfort of surrender lingers. He often returned to that rooftop when visiting his childhood home. The skyline had changed. New buildings pierced the horizon, but the sky remained wide and open. He would stand there and think about the boy who once dreamed beneath it. He wished he could tell that boy how many times he would fail, how many times he would doubt himself, and how many times he would hear the word quit. And he wished he could tell him that none of it would define him unless he allowed it to. Unstoppable wasn't a single moment. It wasn't a trophy or a headline. It was a series of decisions made in quiet rooms when no one was watching. It was choosing to try again after humiliation. It was refining instead of retreating. It was believing that potential deserves patience. And so his story spread not as a fairy tale of effortless triumph, but as a testament to endurance. People saw the success, but he carried the memory of every closed door, every critical comment, every tearful night. They were not scars to hide, but proof of survival. He was told to quit. Instead, he continued. He stumbled, adjusted, learned, and grew. And in the process, he discovered that being unstoppable isn't about never facing resistance. It's about refusing to let resistance have the final word.